the recording in case there's anybody who needs to pick up with this later on. Bienvenidos y bienvenidas. Espero que ustedes estén bien. I hope you guys are all well tonight. And just your little reminder to when you get it, if you've got it coming in the mail yet, however you do so, make sure you do your patriotic duty this year. So here we go. Aquí vamos. Vamos a empezar. We're going to start. We're going to wrap up our little preposition thing. It won't be long. It's going to be our little pictures thing. I think I gave you a link for the pictures, but we'll talk about it. Some people actually wrote them down. You didn't have to. We're just going to wrap up a little short review of those little prepositions a, en, de, para. And we're going to launch into, after that, verbs like gustar. Our one and only video, which for Marlene, because it may boot her out once I play the video when we start it, will be on one verb that sometimes behaves like gustar, which you probably are not going to be expecting. It's kind of a surprise verb that can sometimes behave like gustar. Fantástico. Vamos a empezar. ¿Dónde está? Aquí está. Here we go. I'm going to start with sharing off, and we'll see if we can we'll see if we can use this as kind of a departure point. So I'm going to share my picture here. La foto. I thought that was going to be a little bigger than it is. Okay. Pueden ver la foto. You can see this photo, right? And I've got a big de up here in the corner because we're going to see how many of these things, you know, we can use de to describe some of these things, but we're going to use de in different ways. So remember, some of the uses of de might be to tell what kind of thing something is, like an action movie. We can use de to talk about origin, where somebody is from. We can use de to talk about what kind of material physically something is made out of. We can use it, well, just a number of different ways. Those are just some of the ways we can use de. If I wanted, si quiero hablar de este libro que dice en el título Space Academy, ¿sí? ¿Cómo se puede usar de para describir este libro? How could I use de to describe what kind of book this is? Karen, ¿tienes una idea?
El póster es del libro Space Academy.
El póster es del libro Space Academy. Es buena idea. That's one way you could use de to describe that part of the photo. That wasn't the way I had in mind, but this is the fun of using these pictures because you guys always come up with answers that I haven't thought of. Hay otra manera de usar de. Is there another way we can use de to talk about what kind of book that is?
Un libro de science fiction, science.
Sí, exacto. Es un libro de science fiction y se dice science fiction en español como ciencia ficción. Ciencia ficción. Es un libro, es el título de un libro de ciencia ficción. It's a science fiction book. Fantástico. Aquí tenemos un helado y para hablar de los sabores, to talk about the flavors of these ice creams, we would need to use de. Por ejemplo, para decir strawberry ice cream, ¿cómo diría strawberry ice cream?
Es helado de fresas.
helado de fresa o helado de chocolate, exacto, o helado de
Vanilla.
vainilla. Magnífico, vainilla, muy bien. Vamos a ver aquí, we're going to shift down to the bottom, aquí debajo. Es una foto del Papa. Here is a picture of the Pope. El Papa Francisco. ¿De dónde es? ¿De dónde es? Where's he
Papa
from?
Francisco, ¿de dónde es Argentina?
Es de. He's from. Es de Argentina. Ahora está en Italia, trabaja en Italia generalmente, pero originalmente es de Argentina, Muy bien, aquí tenemos una foto de, ¿qué es?
Es en paella.
Es paella, es un plato de
Paella.
paella, es un plato de paella. It's a dish of paella. Muy bien. Si hablamos de esta camiseta, how could we use de to talk about this t-shirt?
El color de la camiseta es de naranja.
El color de la camiseta es de color anaranjado o de color naranja. Some people use naranja, some people use anaranjada. Es una camiseta anaranjada. Es de, ¿cómo se dice? It's made out of cotton.
Algodón.
Algodón. Es una camiseta de algodón. La camiseta es de algodón. Ok. Aquí son tazas. Tenemos 2 tazas. We've got 2 cups.
Dos tazas de té.
Son tazas de té. If we know,
De porcelana.
de porcelana, también de porcelana. Son 2 tazas de porcelana. They are 2 porcelain cups, or if you want to say china cups, porcelana is the way we use that we're talking about. They're made out of china. Son de porcelana. Y la estatua muy famosa de Venus de Milo, la estatua de Venus de Milo es de, quizás no saben, ¿cómo se dice marble? ¿Alguien sabe? Somebody know how to say marble? Mármol, se dice mármol. Ok, es una estatua de mármol. So we can use they in a variety of ways to talk about these things. Vamos a ver, tenemos aquí una foto distinta, a different photo. Anybody think of a way we could use de or en or a to talk about people or things in this photograph? ¿Tienes una idea, Karen?
Este patio en el museo es lleno de gente y tiene un
Esqueletón.
En una plataforma a la derecha. So
Ok.
I
Hay mucha gente en la foto y la foto está en un museo. Es una foto de un salón en un museo. En la foto o en el museo hay un esqueleto. There's a skeleton de un dinosaurio. Es una palabra difícil de pronunciar. Y también, ¿qué más? What more?
I said el esqueleto, the skeletons, esqueleto
Esqueleto.
de dinosaurio era grande.
Era grande, muy bien, sí.
Yeah.
Fantástico. Es un salón grande. Las personas pueden caminar desde un salón a otro salón.
Sí.
Sí, se puede, sí. Hay personas en el segundo piso. Are there people on that second floor?
Probably.
No sabemos. Quizás sí, quizás no. Ok. Ok, vamos a ver. Vamos a ver otra foto. Aquí hay cosas, podemos usar para cuando hablamos de las cosas aquí en esta foto. Por ejemplo, si hablamos de esta foto de una mamá y una hija, su hija, ¿cómo podemos usar para cuando hablamos de esta foto? How can we use para to talk about these people?
Un regalo para la niña.
Es un regalo para la niña. La mamá tiene un regalo para la niña. La mamá da un regalo a su hija. Bien, para. Recipient, right? She's a recipient. Okay. ¿Cómo se dice in my opinion? Un poquito más difícil. A short way to say, en mi opinión, no. Sí, se puede decir en mi opinión. But a shorter way using para to say in my opinion is?
Para mí.
Para mí. Okay. The shortest and easiest way to talk about how you feel about something, a little introductory phrase would be para mí. Para mí. And everybody knows you're going to be talking about something that you think or an opinion that you have. Y, aquí tenemos...
Marilyn, can I have a question?
Sí, dime.
If you begin with the para mí, and you wanted to say, for example, that the trip from Flagstaff to Los Angeles is in my opinion, is very long, would you then add me parece, because it seems to me very long? Is that too much, or would you just stick with the para mí?
It's a little much, but it's a little emphatic, but that would be okay. Para mí, el viaje entre entre Flagstaff y Los Ángeles me parece largo. It seems long to me. Se puede, you can. There's very rarely only one way to say something. You could stick a me parece in there. Es buena idea, me gusta muchísimo. El viaje es una mapa de una persona que quiere salir de Flagstaff para Los Ángeles, por ejemplo. ¿Sí? There are many ways you could talk about that. Es el mapa de una persona que viaja de Los Ángeles para Flagstaff. So there are different ways you can use that. Those are just a few things to make you think a little bit about various ways we can use those little prepositions. They're certainly not the only ways, but it helps a little bit. Muy bien. Bueno. Entonces, vamos a ver los usos. Vamos a practicar muchos usos de verbos como gustar. I am going to show you something.
Marilyn, can I ask you?
Sí. Perdón.
Just a quick question.
Mhm.
In the last article you gave us, I was looking at the use of de,
Mhm.
and this one I got a question on.
Okay.
Se me llenaron los ojos de lágrimas. And I was wondering in that case, first of all, it doesn't make, I mean, I understand what it's saying, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And could you swap out in that case de for con? In other words, you know, my eyes are filled with tears.
Porque en inglés, in English, we would say my eyes are filled with tears.
Right.
I think there would be much more common.
Okay.
I think there would be much more common in that situation. Es buena pregunta. There are a lot of things, there are a lot of situations where you just sort of have to listen to how it's used in Spanish. And really, it would be more common to hear de in that. Se me llenaron los ojos. My eyes filled up, right? Se me llenaron would, the se me llenaron, my eyes filled themselves up. It's sort of the se me llenaron indicates that it is a physical reaction you had no control over. It just came upon you. That it happened, you know, like that in an instant, and it's a physical reaction that just, like you had no control over it whatsoever. That your eyes filled with tears. Yes, I see. That you would use de. Yeah, more likely than something else. Yeah. Es buena pregunta. That's a very good question. Okay. Let's take a look at verbs like gustar. I'm going to share our screen here just so that you can see a little bit. Aquí, como un repaso, just a review. You know how we use gustar. And I rearranged this a little bit, this thing. You'll get the link for the Nearpod again, in case you didn't have time to look at it, or you did, but forgot what it was like. You know, these verbs that are like gustar can be a little bit, they can kind of throw you off. And unfortunately, it's pretty common to use verbs that are like gustar, but the thing that throws you off is that you don't have all those, or well, you don't use all those 6 conjugations as you're normally used to doing. You know, normally you would think, oh, gustar is an AR verb. Gusto, gustas, gusta, gustamos, gustan. Well, the only 2 you really use are gustan, gustan. You might hear the other forms, but very rarely. So the way we use all these verbs will follow the same kind of a pattern. It's always going to start with a pronoun, you know, unless you have an a phrase leading it off, and that'll be, you know, like you could have a clarifying phrase, a mí, a ti, a nosotros, a él, a ella, a ellos, a mis amigos, right? You could have a clarifying phrase, but generally what the core of what you need for verbs like gustar is a pronoun, and it's going to be either me or te or le or nos, os only in Spain, or les, okay? It's going to be one of these pronouns. That's going to be what you must have as the first half. And then you're going to use one of these 2 forms with gustar, either gusta or gustan, right? The me, the te, the le, the nos, the les, that tells who likes it, okay? Because really, gustar doesn't really mean like, it means to be pleasing to. So gustar is always conjugating for the thing that is liked, right? Gusta if it's one thing or an action. Gustan if it's plural. So the combination could be me gusta or me gustan. It could be te gusta or te gustan. I can combine gusta or gustan within any of these, right? Me gusta is just as valid to say as me gustan, right? Because me is singular. Well, gustar, gustan is going to be either singular or plural, depending on the thing that is liked, not on the fact that it's talking about me being the person who likes it, right? So you can have any of these combinations possible. Me gusta cantar, singular, porque cantar es una acción. Cantar is an action. So that's why gusta has to be singular verb. Me gusta cantar. Singing is pleasing to me, literally, right? Me gustan las flores. I like flowers. Flowers are pleasing to me, literally, right? Okay. ¿Te gusta la comida mexicana? Mexican food is pleasing to you. ¿Te gustan los zapatos? Shoes are pleasing to you. You like shoes. You're a person who just has a thing about shoes. ¿Te gustan los zapatos? ¿Le gusta viajar? Viajar, singular, porque es una acción. Actions are considered singular things. He likes to travel, or she likes to travel, or it could be the formal you like to travel, right? We might need an with the name of a person to clarify or zoom in and be more specific to tell who we mean by that word le, right? Le gustan los gatos. He likes cats, she likes cats, you like cats. If I want to say you as one person like cats, a usted le gustan los gatos. A usted le gustan los gatos. A Beto le gustan los gatos. Okay? Nos gusta el otoño. We like autumn. Autumn is one thing. Otoño es singular. Okay, nos gusta el otoño. Nos gustan las tortillas. We like tortillas. It's not always gustan. It's gustan here because tortillas is more than one, right? But it's gusta singular here, even though we like something. Gusta doesn't, it might be singular because otoño is singular. It might be plural because tortillas is singular. You could use an emphatic phrase, a nosotros nos gusta, a nosotros nos gusta, but you don't have to have the a nosotros. And with le is very, very common because we don't know who you mean by le unless it's rolling along through the conversation and it's obvious. Okay, if it's obvious, you don't need that phrase. Again, with les, same thing like with le. Les is also a kind of fuzzy pronoun. It can mean they, a group of guys, they, a group of gals, mixed group, it can mean a ustedes. So sometimes we need a clarifying phrase up in front of that word les. Les gusta su ciudad. They like their city, but city is one thing. So we have to use gusta. Their city is pleasing to them, literally. Les gustan las películas. They like the movies, or they like movies in general. Les gustan las películas. Gustan here has to be plural, not because of the les, but because of películas, the thing that is liked. Okay, and we might use an a ustedes les gusta, a ellas les gusta, a mis amigas les gusta. We might use, again, a clarifying phrase there. Bien? Okay. Muy bien, a ver, momento. Okay, I'm not going to re-show you that movie. If you didn't watch it, go back and check it out again. You can watch it another time. But I thought it did a really good job of explaining why that verb operates the way it does. Similarly, this is kind of a different explanation, but about the same thing. Gustar. So if you want to go back, you can use it. So now we're going to focus a little bit, not just on gustar, but other verbs that are like gustar. And here's a list of a lot of verbs that are like gustar. And we've got fascinar, which I had to zing in at the bottom, and parecer, to seem. All these verbs, and by the way, these are not the only ones. There are a lot of verbs that work like gustar. These are just some, okay? And pretty soon we're going to look at a word that's not on this list, but it's a word that can, doesn't always, but can work like gustar. So pretty soon we're going to look at that video. But anytime you say that you love something, not romantically, but you love as in pumping up gustar a lot. Not just I like something, but I really love something. We use encantar to say that you're annoyed or bothered by something. You literally say that something is annoying to somebody. You say that something is interesting, interesar, to somebody. You say that something matters or is important to somebody. We use importar. To say that you like somebody, this is the odd one, but caer bien, to fall well, or caer mal, to fall badly. Doler, to talk about body parts that hurt, like your head hurts, your hand hurts, your fingers hurt, your knees hurt. All those things can use doler, right? And that's also got a stem change. So it becomes duele, duele, or duelen. Parecer, to seem, and fascinar, to fascinate. All those verbs can work like gustar. Here is our surprise of the evening. Here's a verb you're not going to expect that can work, doesn't always, but can work like gustar, and it can throw you for a loop. And the reason I pulled this in, but it wasn't in the Nearpod, so this is a different site. So it's not on the Nearpod lesson. There's some people, linguists, who track phrases, and bear with me. There's an actual linguistic term which escapes me right now. It tracks frequency of certain words. How often is a word used in a language? And they tracked what are the most common verbs that are used like gustar. So somebody literally sits down, because they're a linguist, and it's the science of linguistics. They sit down and they literally track 1,000 conversations. So bring in 1,000 people. No kidding. When people do research on this, this is what they do. They'll bring in 1,000 people and they'll just say, talk about whatever you like. And they'll track every time somebody uses in conversation a verb that's being used like gustar. And the number one verb on the list is not any of the verbs I gave you. The number one verb on the list that is like gustar is dar. And this is something I brought in because I said, wow, I believe that is true. And yet, when you look at a textbook to look at what are verbs that are like gustar, you will almost never see that verb on the list. And yet it is the number one in frequency of conversational use, the number one verb that can act like gustar. Why is that? That is often used with a noun to talk about sensations that you feel. And we're going to go into a video to show you this. The whole video won't be about verbs like gustar. The whole video is about dar. But we're going to watch this. And I don't think I've shown this video to this class, but I have shown it to some other classes. So we're going to watch this now. Oops, although I need to switch this to my other screen. So bear with me here. So Marlene, this is going to be a time where it's probably going to boot you out. I'm just going to give you fair warning. You can treat it as an experiment and see if it doesn't boot you out, but I think it probably is going to. And I need to switch my video to my first number one screen because that's the way I need to do that to make this work. This is going to be a video, and Marlene, you got it in if you get booted out, just exit from us and watch the video on your own. They're not going to use that in this video the whole time as a verb like gustar, but you are going to see some examples she uses, and I'll stop and kind of note. It's going to be about halfway through. It's more or less about how often people use dar in Spanish, okay? And she's going to show about halfway through how that is used in the exact same way as a verb like gustar. Oops, I need to turn my audio on. And we're going to watch and see how this rolls.
Soy María.
Y yo soy Cody.
Como pueden ver, estamos en la autopista, en el carro, porque vamos en camino a Nashville. ¿Son cuántas horas, Cody?
3 horas.
Como 3 horas de
Más o
Knoxville. Ok, como 3 horas de Knoxville, donde vivimos, a Nashville. Pero, ¿qué vamos a hacer en Nashville? Pues al final del video les voy a contar qué estamos haciendo allá o qué vamos a hacer allá. Y mientras tanto vamos a aprender algunas cosas acerca de un verbo en español que tiene muchos usos, que es el verbo dar. Entonces, si están interesados, quédense con nosotros. Hace algún tiempo leí que se conoce una palabra por la palabra que la acompaña.
You know a word, se conoce, one knows. One's familiar with a word according to the word that accompanies it. So she's going to talk to you about how you can't translate every single little word. We know how dot is being used according to the context of all the words that surround the form of dar. Right? That is going to have many different uses. One of them is going to be as a verb like gustar, but she's going to show you other things as well. But what dar means depends on the other words that are around it.
Mejor dicho, todas las palabras tienen un significado, pero a veces su significado puede cambiar con las palabras que tengan al lado.
So a word can change its meaning according to the other words that are next to it. Que tengan al lado, the words it has alongside it, determine how we're going to interpret that verb.
Es muy importante tener en cuenta que los hablantes nativos de español no hablamos usando palabras individuales.
We do not speak using words individually, separated, isolated by themselves. But rather, she's going to use the word sino, but rather as groups of words. As groups of words. And even though the whole video isn't about verbs like gustar, it is good because you need to think about all of those verbs that are like gustar in this way as a string of words that you need to know just how they hook together.
Sino grupos de palabras. Y por eso es muy importante que tú aprendas grupos de palabras. Hoy vamos a conocer 5 grupos de palabras que puedes usar con el verbo dar. Vamos a empezar con lo básico. El verbo dar tiene una definición, no es la única, pero una definición es entregar. El verbo dar es entregar.
Entregar is a fancier word for dar. Entregar is to hand over, to turn in, to deliver something to somebody. And that is what dar means, right? To give. Entregar is just like a higher level, fancier word than dar. Okay, dar is the basic one that people would use every day, but entregar es un sinónimo. It's a synonym for that.
Por ejemplo, cuando yo entrego o doy el teléfono a Cody. Estoy dando el teléfono a Cody. Bueno, vamos a empezar con la conjugación del verbo dar. Es un verbo irregular. Entonces, atención. La conjugación es yo doy, tú das, él, ella da, nosotros damos, ustedes dan.
So, doy, das, da, damos, dan.
Correcto. Eso es solamente para el presente, ¿no? Ya les dejo de tarea a ustedes buscar cómo se conjuga en pasado, en futuro, bueno, en todos los tiempos.
Okay, and I'm going to give you a chart later on that you'll get as a link. A lot of you said we would like to see like different charts with all different conjugations. And we're going to do that with that again, because that is such a common verb to hear people use. That's why it hit number 1 on that spot the linguist gave of what verb is used most often that's like gustar, because people use dar literally every day, frequently in their conversations with other folks. So we're going to take a look at that later on in all of its different tenses.
Pero esa no es la única definición. Entonces, vamos a ver qué otras palabras puedes usar con dar. Por ejemplo, darse cuenta de algo. Cuando te das cuenta de algo, significa que notas algo, que estás viendo o notando, eres consciente de algo que antes no veías.
So that's like when you notice something, like you haven't noticed before. Like,
Sí.
oh, I've never seen that before.
En inglés es como to realize.
Ah, to realize, okay.
Sí, entonces darse cuenta de algo. Entonces,
And you don't need to furiously write these down because I'm going to give this to you in a chart, right? Sometimes we use that as a reflexive, but it doesn't mean give. It means realize. It means realize. And notice, cuenta, 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 cuenta. It doesn't matter what you use with the verb. You have to use the word cuenta to say realize. Literally, darse cuenta de means to give oneself an account of. We would never say anything like that in English. This means to realize, like, boom, wow, this just dawned on me. Wow, I got it. The light bulb above my head went on. That's what darse cuenta de means. And all those words have to hang together. Me doy cuenta de. You need a de after that yet. So, yeah.
entonces tú lo conjugas así. Me doy cuenta, te das cuenta, se da cuenta, nos damos cuenta, se dan cuenta.
For example, so me doy cuenta este carro.
Sí, pero tienes que decir me doy cuenta de.
Okay. So me doy cuenta de este carro.
Sí, por ejemplo.
Okay.
Otro ejemplo. Ayer estaba poniendo las cosas en mi bolso
Yesterday, I was putting stuff in my purse.
y me di cuenta de que no tenía mis documentos, mi licencia de conducción.
Me di cuenta de que I realized. And usually, when we use darse cuenta, usually we use that very frequently in the past, right? Because you say, oh, I didn't, past. I didn't realize that my keys were gone. I didn't realize, in this case, me di cuenta de que no tenía mi licencia. I realized I didn't have my license. So very often in this sense of realizing, that is used often in pretérito. And you'll get a link.
Entonces, no puedo manejar sin mi licencia de conducción. Me di cuenta de que no tenía mi licencia. Entonces la busqué y la encontré. Me di cuenta, noté. Pero ¿sabes qué? Me da lo mismo.
And here, actually, this is an important phrase. Es importante. People use this a lot. Me da lo mismo. And this, in a sense, is using dar as we would use gustar in the same format. To me, it gives the same. The way you say you kind of don't care, it's all the same to you, is to say me da lo mismo. Me da lo mismo. Por ejemplo, ¿quieres helado de vainilla o helado de chocolate? Me da lo mismo. All the same to me. I don't really care which one. It's a way of saying that.
Me da lo mismo, porque la verdad casi no manejo. Entonces, me da lo mismo es otra expresión. ¿Qué crees que significa, Cody?
I guess that means like it's the same for me.
Correcto, sí. Me da lo mismo. Y atención a cómo lo estoy diciendo. Puedes decir, me da lo mismo.
And look, she's got little pronouns in front of that, little clarifying phrases. A mí, you might or might not say. A ti, you might or might not say. A mí me da lo mismo. All the same to me. A ti te da lo mismo. A él le da lo mismo. Hey, he doesn't really care one way or the other. It's all the same to him. A ella le da lo mismo. And those words would all hang together, but that's kind of like how we use gustar. And it's a very common phrase people use every day.
Te da lo mismo. A ella le da lo mismo. Nos da lo mismo. Les da lo mismo. Correcto. Entonces, me da lo mismo si manejas o manejo. No importa. Me da lo mismo significa no importa, no pasa nada, no hay problema si tú haces esto o si yo hago esto.
Yeah, it's the same to me whether you drive or I drive. All the same to me. I don't care if you drive or I drive. Me da lo mismo si manejas o manejo.
Si tienes dos opciones y no tienes problema con ninguna opción, puedes decir me da lo mismo. Otra manera de decirlo es me da igual. Me da igual.
Me da igual is just a different way of saying that same idea. Me da igual. And that word igual means equal. It gives equal to me, is what you're saying. But people say this all the time. Me da igual, me da lo mismo. Those are synonymous phrases, interchangeable.
¿Qué prefieres? ¿Quieres sacar a Maya esta noche o quieres que yo la saque?
Do you want to take Maya? Maya es su perro. It's their dog. Do you want to take her out? La saque. Do you want to take Maya out for a walk or should I do it?
Me da igual.
Me da
Perfecto,
igual.
entonces
Same to
no
me. Don't
importa
care.
quién hace la acción, me da igual. Bien. La siguiente manera de usar el verbo dar es con esta expresión, dar una vuelta. Cuando vas a dar una vuelta significa que no vas a estar mucho tiempo afuera, vas a salir a caminar quizás o vas a salir por un rato corto, por un tiempo corto.
Dar una vuelta. Una vuelta is a turn around something. Dar una vuelta could mean to take a little walk and then you're coming back really soon. So when she says vas a salir por un rato, you're going to go out for a little while. Un rato es a little while. A short period of time. Un rato corto, por un tiempo corto, for a short period of time. Dar una vuelta could mean you take a spin around the block in your car. It could mean you're going out just for a little while and you're coming right back. It indicates a short jaunt to go out somewhere.
A hacer algo corto. Por ejemplo, cuando yo saco a mi perra Maya a caminar, vamos a dar una vuelta.
Now here we're not going to use it as gustar. Here, dar una vuelta will be conjugated for whoever actually does that action of going out for a short turn around the block or a short car ride and coming right back.
That means to like do a lap or go around.
Literalmente sí, eso es lo que significa. Pero es más como cuando tú vas a caminar por un momento corto, por 5 minutos, por algo corto.
Okay, so it's just like a short lap or short trip.
Por ejemplo, Cody, ya regreso, voy a salir, voy a dar una vuelta y vengo en 5 minutos. ¿Sabes? Hay otro tipo de usos para el verbo dar, pero este creo que es el que más uso, es el que más escucho. Y es cuando usas.
And she even says, not being a linguist, this is the way you use it the most, the one coming up.
Me da y luego una palabra. Por ejemplo, me da tristeza, me da rabia, me da alegría.
And this is now how dar is truly used, like gustar. Me da con sustantivo. I'm going to turn the closed captions off for a minute. Me da, and this is exactly used, and I'll be darned, but bingo if she didn't say exactly what those linguists found out by measuring what words that people typically use in just an everyday conversation. Me da, sustantivo is a noun. Me da tristeza. It gives me sadness. Me da rabia. It gives me anger. Me da alegría. It gives me happiness. So in other words, people use dar just like the construction for gustar when they want to say, I got sad, I got angry, I became happy. Something makes me happy, something makes me scared. You can use it as me da miedo. Me da miedo es muy común. Me da miedo, it scares me. Something gives me fear. Me da miedo. Ok.
Es como decir, tengo la sensación de, y luego un sentimiento o una emoción.
So it means like it makes me feel like something.
Sí, algo así. Cuando tú dices me da rabia, me da alegría, me da hambre, me da tristeza, es cuando tienes una sensación que otra cosa te produce. Por ejemplo,
So a thing produces the feeling in you, which means we're using this verb like gustar. Me da risa, she's going to say me da risa. Risa is laughter. It gives me laughter. But literally what you're saying is something that makes you laugh. Me da risa.
me da risa cuando la gente pelea en los foros en internet.
It makes me laugh when people fight in internet forums and like on internet sites, when they go back and forth and fight, all the comments that fight back and forth on any kind of website, blog, YouTube, wherever, lo que sea.
Me da hambre cuando veo comida en la televisión.
Muy bien, me da hambre. It gives me hunger when I see food on TV. It makes me hungry to see food on TV. That's how we need to say that. Me da hambre. Me da hambre. Hambre is one thing. Hunger it produces hunger in me.
Muy bien, sí me da hambre, me produce la sensación de hambre.
Otro. Me da nervioso.
No
Now, he can't say me da nervioso because nervioso is an adjective. He's going to have to change that idea of nervioso into a noun.
digas la característica, di la palabra. Entonces, nervioso es la característica y la palabra sería nervios. Nervios.
So me da nervios.
Nervios.
Me da nervios.
Estira la boca.
Me da nervios.
Eso.
Cuando veo un policía.
También sí me da nervios. O
Cuando manejar.
cuando manejo.
Manejo.
O por ejemplo, me da pereza cuando vamos a Nashville. ¿Extrañas Nashville, Cody?
Para mí, no. Porque Nashville tiene mucho tráfico.
No, pero no me parece tan terrible.
Para mí no me gusta.
Bueno, pero te da pereza ir a Nashville.
Sí, no me gusta.
Sí, me da pereza.
Me da pereza. I don't feel like doing it. I'm kind of bored making the long drive.
Te da pereza levantarte temprano. Te da pereza.
Don't like to do it.
Bueno, Cody, ¿ya cuánto nos falta para llegar a Nashville?
Creo que 2 horas, hora y media.
¿En serio?
Sí.
Ay, todavía falta mucho. Bueno, todavía nos falta mucho tiempo para llegar a Nashville. Me da mucha pereza cuando vamos.
And nos falta mucho tiempo. It's a lot of time. That's one verb I didn't put on that's like gustar. We lack a lot. Nos falta mucho tiempo. We've still got a long way to go.
Vamos a Nashville porque generalmente vamos allá solamente para cosas de documentos y cosas así como aburridas. Entonces no me interesa mucho ir allá, pero vamos a terminar la lección de dar con esta expresión. No dar pie con bola. No dar pie con bola.
Okay, here she's not going. She's going to use this. It will not be like gustar, but it is kind of a funny expression. To not give your foot with the ball. To not give your foot with the ball. Let's see if you can figure out what it means.
Y la conjugas así. No doy pie con bola, no das pie con bola, no da pie con bola, no damos pie con bola, no dan pie con bola.
Okay, and you can see there it's not conjugated like gustar. It goes into all the traditional forms of dar. To not give your foot with the ball.
Bueno, y básicamente significa no acertar o equivocarse continuamente en algo. Por ejemplo, en el examen de español me fue muy mal, me fue súper mal porque no supe conjugar todos esos verbos, me fue mal. No
The exam went really bad for me. Me fue mal, it went badly for me.
di pie con bola.
No di pie con bola.
No di pie con bola.
So it means you just don't get something?
Sí, correcto. Es como cuando no entiendes algo o cuando te equivocas muchísimo haciendo la misma cosa.
So what do you think that no dar pie con bola means? What do you think that would actually, how would we say that in English? Anybody have an idea? If the test went bad, it's a way of saying I totally messed up.
You dropped the ball. You dropped the ball.
Drop the ball. Magnifico. Drop the ball. Wow, I totally missed it. And this really is, I'm pretty sure this comes from soccer as a soccer expression. Fútbol. You know, yeah, you know, if you miss the ball, if you miss your shot, I totally missed that. I totally missed that. I messed up. I screwed up. I blew it. I blew it. We have different ways of saying that in English.
Okay, so you just don't understand and you just don't get something.
Sí, exacto. Sí, cuando no entiendes algo o te equivocas. You make something
When you're
wrong.
mistaken or you don't understand something.
You make a
at
lot
all.
of mistakes.
You mess up.
En español, no di pie con bola.
Sí.
So mi español,
Ah,
did you say that?
sí, podrías decir no doy pie con bola con el español.
I don't mess up my Spanish.
Como que me equivoco muchísimo con el español. Entonces, no doy pie con bola.
No doy pie con bola.
Sí, eso significa que te equivocas mucho y que definitivamente es algo muy, muy complicado para ti.
Okay.
Obviamente tienes que conjugarlo para el tiempo que sea necesario. Por ejemplo, si estás hablando en presente, entonces en presente. Si hablas en pasado, pues en pasado y así. Tienes que pensar en la conjugación del verbo.
Okay, and we're going to stop it here from now so that you can ask any questions you might have about that. So I'm going to share this with you one more time. So keep this in mind. I am not going to use dar so much. I am not going to use dar so much today in our practice, but keep in mind, even though I didn't give it to you on a list because traditionally most textbooks don't, dar is the number one verb that is used like gustar. Me da miedo, me da nervios, me da, yeah, something gives me a certain feeling, something makes me feel a certain way. So if you were really to scientifically measure it, dar would be the verb that people used most frequently, like gustar, which seems kind of odd to us, but it is a super, super common use. So let's take a look at these examples again a little bit, and then we'll look at some examples on the internet and send you off to do some examples. We're going to take a look at these combinations of how we use these verbs. And again, you're not going to see that so much in the examples, but you'll see other verbs that do the same kind of structure, right? Molestar becomes either molesta or molestan, right? Me molesta ese ruido, me molestan esos niños. Interesa only takes the forms generally of interesa or interesan. Nos interesa este museo, no nos interesan tus problemas, right? Your problems don't interest us. We don't, in other words, this is a way of saying we don't care about your problems. We're not interested in your problems. No nos interesan tus problemas. Parecer can be used this way, as Susana had used it actually in our earlier kind of free expression. ¿Cómo te parece este vestido? Is a way of asking, what do you think about this? How does it seem to you? What do you think about it? Me parecen muy caras estas cosas. Wow, these things seem very expensive to me. Parecer might be used singularly when we use a que after it. So me parece que, it seems to me that she is very pretty. Me parece que ella es muy bonita. So parecer is a little different than these other verbs in that you may hear it used with the word que also. Doler will become either duele or duelen. Le duele mucho la cabeza, le duelen los ojos. The eyes, they hurt him. The head, it hurts somebody. And notice we use los ojos en la cabeza. We don't say his head or his eyes. We use the word for the, whether it's la or los or el, el, la, los, las. Those are the words we use with body parts to say that they hurt. Me importa el precio, or sí, me importa el precio. The price matters to me. It's important to me. No le importan mis ideas. His ideas don't matter to him, my ideas don't matter to him. No le importan mis ideas. He doesn't care about my ideas. My ideas don't matter to him. ¿Te caen bien los nuevos estudiantes? Do you like the new students? And that's another interesting phrase. Caer bien, to like somebody, meaning you think they're pretty decent, pretty good person. Okay. You may hear an a phrase with a pronoun to clarify, right? A mí no me importa lo que dices. To me, it doesn't matter what he said or what you say, lo que dices. Or that should be a lo instead of los. So I'm sorry, perdón. A mí no me importa lo que dices. That should be lo que dices. Lo que dices, what you say. A ti te interesan los nuevos aparativos. Aparativos, or I'm sorry, and that should be aparatos. I don't know what drug I was on when I wrote that word. Aparativos no es. Aparatos, it should be aparatos, and I don't have the ability to go back in. I will go back in and make sure I change that. Aparativos are really something you drink. Aparatos are gadgets. So that's a big mistake on my part. Aparatos is what I meant to say. Aparativos is something that you drink. Although maybe it is new drinks, I don't know. That so grammatically makes sense. A nosotros nos parece que es muy caro. It seems to us that it's very expensive. Okay, so I'll make my little changes in there. We're gonna actually have you go off and do some talking using this very shortly. But we're going to take a little. Oh, sí, pregunta. ¿Tienes pregunta? Dime.
So when I look at the list that you were just showing with Dar ser, so when you say somethings like gustar, in my mind, gustar, yeah, we have the mete, le, nos, les, and then we only have two forms, gusta or gustan.
Right.
But with dar, it's you conjugate.
That is a little bit different. It's usually, yeah, it's usually just da.
But the other the other words that are listed, are there only two forms? I mean, like
There are just those two forms. That's what you're going to hear people use.
from all of the other severe, llegar, resaltar.
And I'm going to, I'm going to show you, however, one thing that could be a little different. Where's my cursor? Here it goes. Okay, let's bring up a white screen. I'm going to show you one maybe kind of exception to that. Ooh. Except I can't do it this way because I've got things in the wrong screen. So I'm going to have to.
I guess my question is, which ones do you conjugate and which ones only have two conjugation?
Most of the time, those are just going to have two. Oh boy. Can you guys see the blank screen or not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See? Okay. For some reason, it's putting me.
Blank screen is blank, yes.
Blank screen, blank, okay. Es lo más importante. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little bit with importar, por ejemplo, okay? Importar means to be important, or a lot of times we throw in this idea of matter. And a lot of times this is used with kind of a negative connotation. No me importa que necesitas más dinero, and I need to switch over to my accent mark keyboard here because it was missing. Más dinero. No me importa que necesitas más dinero. It doesn't matter to me that you need more money, right? Okay. Bien, por ejemplo. No me importa que necesitas más dinero. That you need more money is a situation, so it's just importa, right? If a girlfriend and a boyfriend are having an argument, however, let's say a girlfriend and a boyfriend are ticked off at each other, they're fighting cats and dogs about something, and she yells, no me importas, no me importas, you don't matter to me. You may sometimes hear a different conjugation. And when somebody throws out, no me importas, you don't matter to me, you might hear the tu form of that verb, because what that girlfriend means is, you don't matter to me. I don't care about you. No me importas, you the person don't matter to me, because she's really ticked off. But most of the time, it's going to be me importa or me importan. Most of the time. And usually you're going to hear it just in one of those two forms. It might, in a very specific situation, it could be conjugated for tu. If she's talking directly to her boyfriend, say, I don't care about you because I am really ticked off. No me importas. You don't matter to me. So there are always exceptions. There are always little situations where it may deviate a little and you might throw in a different verb. Es posible, it is possible, but not all the time. Es buena pregunta. That's a good question, actually. Okay. Bien. We're going to look at some baby step things, some baby step exercises, and then send you off to do some speaking. Okay. And we're going to do the baby step first to get you into speaking using your own ideas. So we're going to take a look, and you'll get a link for this next page so that you can do it again on your own. Kind of, quiz yourself after the fact, right? Verbs like gustar. And we're going to go from easy examples to harder examples. I like the food, and these are going to be easier ways.
Yeah.
Would it be me gusta la comida or me gustan la comida?
Gusta.
Gusta.
Yeah.
This is going to have to be gusta, right? Because la comida is a singular noun. Okay, so we're going to start with easy examples here. I like the books. Me
Gustan.
Gustan.
Gustan los libros, okay. You like the paintings, te
Gustan.
gustan las pinturas. She likes meat, le
Gustar.
la carne, singular, le gusta la carne, le gusta la carne. Okay, even though in your mind meat might mean like a lot of different hunks of animal flesh, carne is singular, so it's got to be me gusta la carne, me gusta la carne. All right. Okay. Here's another verb that is like gustar. It is not something I put on the list, but it is faltar. And faltar means to be lacking. And I'll be honest with you, how often do you say, wow, you know, you got to sign a document and you're kind of looking all over, oh, I haven't got a pen on me, right? How often do you say, I am lacking a pen? Do you ever say that? No, of course you don't. You say, I haven't got a pen. I need a pen. I haven't got a pen on me. They use falta to express that idea. And it does mean lacking. So, but we're going to use either falta or faltan. I'm lacking money.
Falta.
Falta.
Me falta el dinero para comprar el anillo. I am lacking the money. I haven't got the money. I need it. I need it. It's missing. It's missing. I lack it. Nos falta el dinero para comprar los boletos. We cannot look at boletos, tickets. You could say, nos faltan los boletos, meaning you haven't got the tickets on you. Shoot, I was supposed to have the tickets in my wallet. Nos faltan los boletos. But now it's not just nos faltan los boletos, it's nos falta el dinero. Haven't got the money for the tickets. Nos falta el dinero para los boletos. Comprenden la diferencia? Do you understand the difference between those? Right? You could use it either way. If you're just talking about the tickets, nos faltan los boletos. But if you need the money, if you're lacking money, you've run out of money, it's nos falta. She's lacking 4 chairs. Le faltan. And really what we might say is that she's missing 4 chairs. She hasn't got 4. She needs to have 4. She needs to have 4 more. Le faltan 4 sillas, but sillas plural. Okay.
Short. She's short 4 chairs.
Yeah. Short. Yeah, you're short. And think of how confusing that would be to explain to somebody in English. Oh, he's short $4. Short $4? What the heck, short? Not short in height, right? Missing a button.
Oh. Falta.
Le falta el botón. You're missing a button. Le falta el botón. Le falta un botón. You're missing a button. It popped off of your shirt. Faltar is used like gustar. And disgustar is the opposite of gustar. To say that you dislike, and we have the word dislike, yeah? Yeah, so this is like saying dislike, but something does not produce pleasure for you. It can be expressed, it doesn't have to be. There are other ways to say it. But disgustar, you can use detestar as well, but that's a whole different story. Okay, I hate modern music. La música moderna me
Disgusta.
me disgusta la música moderna. They hate sports. Les disgustan los deportes. They hate TV, television. Les disgusta la televisión. You hate this book. Te disgusta este libro. And now we're going to take a look at parecer and molestar before we send you off. The movie seems good to me. Yeah, it seems pretty good to me. La película me Parece, me parece buena. You can shift the order of those words. Is me parece buena esta película. You can shift la película to the back. You could if you wanted to. The cars seem inexpensive to them. Los autos les parecen baratos. Bien, okay. The house seems expensive to us. La casa nos
Parece.
parece cara because it's just one house, right? La casa. The clothing seems ugly to you. La ropa te parece fea. A lot of times people use that word fea in Spanish to say, and you know, fea, ugly or feo, ugly is a really strong sounding word to us, but that's used pretty casually in Spanish to say, yeah, it doesn't appeal to me, even though ugly has kind of a stronger connotation in English. Okay, y aquí con molestar, el ruido les
Molesta.
les molesta. It is bothersome to them. Sometimes the humidity bothers her. A veces la humedad le molesta. The commercials bother him a little. Los anuncios le molestan poco. The drunks bother me in the streets. Wow. Los borrachos me molestan en la calle. It does not mean they're molesting you, although, well, yes, if you take that to the extreme, we hope not. Los borrachos me molestan. They annoy me. They bother me. I don't like them. Así es. So that is a nice baby step into verbs like gustar. Vamos a ver. What I would like to do now is to send you off into breakout rooms. And I want you to use any of these verbs that are like gustar, although, and I have an interesting question on using dar in plural. I'm gonna, if you don't mind, Tomas, I'm going to leave that para la semana que viene. I'm gonna leave your question for next week, only because if I don't do this in this order, I won't be able to fit my stuff. Okay, but I will look at that later. Okay. Here are the verbs that I would suggest that you use because they would be super common. And I'm going to put them up in the chat box and you can copy them down later. Molestar, encantar, importar, interesar. Yeah, you're going to see it in a minute. Interesar and doler. Here are the verbs I would like you to use. Molestar, yay, and that's because I've got a big fat finger going on there. Molestar, molestar, no es molestar, molestar. Molestar, encantar, importar, interesar, doler. Those are the verbs I want you to use. Please ignore the molestar, it's molestar. Molestar, encantar, importar, interesar, doler. I want you to go off and not talk about yourself. I want you to talk about somebody or a group of people. Por ejemplo, I want you to say, my husband loves vegetables because he's a vegetarian. I want you to say things like, wow, they ran a marathon and their feet hurt. They ran a marathon, their feet really hurt. Okay. I want you to say that pets bother him. He doesn't like to have pets in the house. I want you to talk about not yourself, but somebody else and how they feel about something. What annoys them, what they love, what matters to them, what's interesting to them, what body part hurts somebody. So that means you're not going to be using me or te or nos. You're going to be using what two words?
Le,
Yes.
Le or
les.
les. Right. I want you to isolate it and not talk about yourself, but talk about somebody. And that somebody can be anybody, but it can't be yo. I'm not talking about myself. Tú, I'm not talking about you. Nosotros, we're not talking about us. And you can come up with any examples, but maybe one example or different examples, and they can be anything. And I'll probably send you off into about groups of about 3. Some of these breakout rooms might wind up being 2 people. 5 minutos, 5 minutes, or a little bit longer, un poquito más. 7 minutes, 7 minutos.
5.
7?
7.
7, okay. 7. I think we can do this. And oh, you're going to wind up, one group is going to be a little bit bigger, but that's okay. Okay, I'm going to give you 7 minutes. We'll come back, compare notes, see what you have questions on. Y aquí vamos. You need to hit your join button.
Right.
Ok, estamos juntos otra vez. I want to make sure you all take yourselves off of mute, please, unless you have, you know, like a screaming baby in the background. I don't think anybody does. I'm going to bring up the whiteboard, and I want us to share out some of these ideas. Ooh, whoops. I think I just messed up here. Okay. Whoa. Oh no. Bear with me. I've got to do this a little different way. I'm messing up a little bit because I've got My double screen's going and it wants to go off in different directions. Okay. A ver, otra vez. Antes de empezar, before we start off, do you guys have any questions? Just shout out a question if you have one. And actually tell me, can you see the white screen?
Yes.
No.
See,
Yes, you can?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Bien, magnífico.
So we did have a question.
Okay.
So if you wanted to say, to my husband, sports are not important. Is that right, Donna?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what could you say? A mi esposo no le importa, and I forget. I'm having aphasia. Now I don't know what the word for sport.
Deportes, deportes.
Would you say los deportes, or could you say los deportes no me importa a mi esposo?
Perdón.
Order of words.
Los deportes no le importan. Los deportes no le importan.
But you have to get in there to my husband.
To my husband, a mi esposo. A mi esposo no le importan los deportes.
A mi esposo.
A mi esposo no le importan los deportes.
Our question was, you can move the blocks of words around. What would be the most common way? Would it be more common to say no le importan los deportes? Would it be more common to say a mi esposo los deportes no le importan?
No le importan los deportes would be a little more common, but you might have encountered people who mix it up a little bit.
Okay.
And they might do that because they use their voice in terms of fluctuation like this. Le importan los deportes, tu esposo. A tu esposo. They might phrase it that way, you know, like if they are kind of doing an up and down thing with their voice, that might happen. So the word order might flip around just a little bit. It is posible. It is possible.
And a mi esposo can go at the beginning or the end. Right?
It is possible. It would be a little more common. A mi esposo no le importan. That would be the most
More common. Okay.
The more common way to phrase that. Okay. So let's put that up as one of our examples. A mi esposo. A mi esposo. Okay. A mi esposo no le importan los deportes. My husband doesn't care about sports. Okay. Otros ejemplos.
Is it deportes or deportes?
Oh, deportes. Perdón. Gracias. Gracias. Got the fat finger thing going on here. A mi esposo no le importan los deportes. Bien. Okay, otros ejemplos, other examples that you got. Otros ejemplos que ustedes dijeron uno a otro.
A niños les encantan los chocolates.
Los niños les encantan los chocolates. A los niños. Kids, any old kids, right? Or it might be a specific group of kids. Kids love chocolates. Or maybe there is a specific group of kids. Children love the chocolates. Okay, a los niños. Es buen ejemplo. Otro ejemplo.
Él no le encanta el perro de vecinos.
A él no le encanta el perro de los vecinos.
Mhm.
I like that one.
Or sí, or it might be de sus vecinos. It might be his neighbors. Es posible. A él no le encanta el perro de los vecinos o de sus vecinos. Igual. Ok, buen ejemplo. Otro.
A mi clase de tai chi le duelen los piernas.
A mi clase de Tai Chi, se escribe Tai Chi así, Tai Chi. A mi clase de Tai Chi le duelen.
Le duelen los piernas.
Shift it over to me. Le duelen las piernas. Las
Las
piernas. Their legs hurt.
Sí.
Their legs hurt. Quizás le, and here it's le because she said a mi clase. Okay? And clase, even though it's a whole bunch of people, clase es singular. So le es correcto. Le duelen las piernas. Le duelen los músculos. Their muscles hurt. Es posible, ¿sí? Le duelen los músculos. También es posible. Me gusta muchísimo. Otro ejemplo. Otro. ¿Sí? ¿No? ¿Fue fácil? ¿Fue difícil? ¿Hard? ¿Easy? ¿Más o menos?
Más o menos. Más o menos.
Tomas had a great question. Oh, and Tomas is off. We're going to come back next week, actually, and we're going to revisit this idea of dar, because he had a really super good question, which we didn't have time for me to get into because we would have not had time to fit everything else in. We're gonna take dar and parecer, those two verbs, and focus a little more on those two next week because they're a little harder to use. And Tomas's question had been, do we use dar in plural or not? So we're gonna delve into those two verbs that are a little bit harder next week because they're a little more challenging to use. I am going to show you a homework lesson that I will send you via email. This is going to be a long exercise, and it'll give you the answers whether you got them right away.
I like that.
Okay, yeah, you like that. There are 40 of them. I 40. There are 40 of these. Now, I am going to point out, please don't be like my husband who does not like to read directions. Because if you, are you one of those people who does not like to read? I can figure this out
Is that a
myself.
problem?
Now, that being said, if he were downstairs here with me, I'd be getting those dagger looks right now. Yeah, right. That being said, generally it's because he doesn't need any stinking directions. I know he's so good with fixing stuff. He generally doesn't. But you know, every once in a while you get into that project and realize, I should have read those directions. Here's why. When you look at this screen, and if you start to type in everything, if you start to say, I am being a good little person, and you type everything in, it's going to tell you you're wrong because it doesn't want the whole thing. So read the direction. It only wants the verb.
Okay.
So if you type everything in, this is so, it's so perfect. I typed all those words correctly. And it will tell you you're wrong because all it wanted you to do was to take that one verb, importar, right? Okay. But it's going to give you 40 different questions. El zumbido de las abejas is the buzzing of bees. El zumbido de las abejas. Abejas are bees. And zumbido is the buzz, buzz, buzz. Zumbido is onomatopoeia. Buzz is their zumbido. It sounds like what is zumbido, zumbido. That's the noise that little abejas make. So it'll give you 40 examples of different verbs that are like gustar. I am going to send you off with that for homework. We will come back next week and we will start off with dar in more depth and parecer in more depth, because those two are a little bit harder to use than the others. We'll take any questions you've got. If you want to post on the post-it board on that verbs like gustar page, I will leave that there. although I will correct my little mistakes and send you a new link to that. Oh, and I will send you the two links to Destinos, the next chapter, 13, right? And El Tiempo Entre Costuras, 13 on that one. So we'll get a more in depth. ¿Tienen preguntas antes de terminar todo? Do you have any questions before we end this up?
I have a question that occurs to me occasionally. When you have me, am I, sometimes there's an accent, sometimes there isn't.
Oh,
So I need to understand the difference.
okay. I think you want the difference between me and me, right?
See,
Okay. There you go. I will also send you a link to a really excellent video about accent marks.
Okay.
Because it is too long, it's too longish to play for class. Me, okay. Me means my.
Just without the accent.
Me means me. Me with no accent mark says something belongs
To me.
to me.
me.
Mhm.
And me,
Me with an accent mark is the human being, me. Para mí, for me. A mí me molestan las serpientes. Snakes bother me. A mí me molestan las serpientes. Snakes bug me. Snakes bother me. Snakes annoy me. A mí. Me is a prepositional pronoun. And it means me and me, the person, the human being. Me with no accent is not the human being. It means something belongs to me. It is what they call a possessive pronoun. It tells to whom something belongs. Me is a part of a kind of small group of words. There are some words in Spanish, and this happens because they are so short, quite honestly. There are some words in Spanish because they are super short, but they mean two different things. One will carry an accent mark and the other won't. They sound exactly identical, but one carries an accent mark. So me and me are one of those. T, oh, no, I'm sorry. Oh, te is one of those, and te is the thing you drink. C with no accent mark means if. C with an accent mark is yes, right? Bien. Más with an accent mark means more. Más without an accent mark is kind of an archaic word. It's the same thing as pero, but you don't hear it very often. In conversation, it wouldn't come up. But there are some words in Spanish, and because they're super smart. Oh, and this one, tú meaning your,
and
and
tú, meaning
tú,
you.
you the person. Oh, another one, otro, another one, because siempre hay otro. Se, which has a gazillion meanings, right? Se habla español. Se levanta a las 7, right? Se is used in a whole bunch of different ways, but se, which sounds exactly the same, oops, se, which sounds exactly the same, means I know. So there's a whole category of words which, because they sound alike, but they're really, in effect, two vastly different words, you know, unrelated to each other, different meanings. One will carry an accent mark, the other one will not.
So it's just how do you remember which one has the accent and
How are
which
they
one?
functioning? How are they functioning? What does it mean? How is it fun? And when people speak, they never see that. So it makes no difference when you speak because, right? But what meaning the word takes on will differ.
Right.
Will differ. And they,
So there is a small body of words in Spanish which will have, well, one has an accent mark, one doesn't, means they have two different definitions. But in other situations, accent marks are there to specifically tell you, put more emphasis on a particular syllable of a word. And it breaks a certain rule, but the explanation is probably the best one I've ever seen made. So I will send you that in the homework link. Because it is worth looking at if you're typing up emails, if you're communicating it all in a written form. When you're speaking, it doesn't matter all that much, but it matters in writing. And it matters when you read, you know.
Sure.
Because it's what you're seeing. Buena pregunta, good question. Okay, eso es todo, that's it, right? Así. We're gonna come back, we'll revisit any questions you've got about verbs like gustar. We'll have a different kind of exercise for you to rework that a little bit, and we'll focus a little more on parecer and a little more on dar, because they are kind of special animals from the other ones in the group. ¿Está bien?
Está
bien.
bien.
Okay. Do you feel like you've got a little better handle on these kinds of verbs?
Yeah.
See?
But notice nowhere in that do we use say. Nowhere with those verbs do we ever use say. And that's the mistake that people often, a lot of people tend to make. So with verbs like gustar, you do not want to use say. Léenles, use them a lot. Because you're talking about somebody else or a bunch of people, somebody else in a group, but never say. Métenos all the time. Okay. Well, I hope all of you go out and vote for whomever you wish this week, whomever you feel is best. You folks in Scottsdale have a lot on your ballot.
Oh, yeah, it took us a while.
Because you have council people, you have
School board.
yeah, probably some financial stuff. Am I right?
City council and
There's
judges.
there's city
Mayor?
council, mayor, school board,
The school board.
and then there's county stuff too, but you would have had that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And-
How many people on your city council? It must be pretty big.
Well, we had to vote for 3 out of 6.
Oh, 3 out of 6. Okay.
So I don't know how many there are altogether, but there were 3 positions up for election.
No, Fountain Hills, I think we have 7.
I think we have 6.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how many in total.